John, thanks so much. And an update on the breaking news we've been bringing you. MTA officials giving an update right now on the Penn Station track fire that suspended service this morning and still causing delays.
Long Island Railroad was operating today, making sure our customers, a lot of whom are trying to get out of town for a big weekend, hopefully the first nice summer weekend. We have, overnight we had a large number of cancellations and a large number of diversions because we had to move everything to Grand Central Madison. We had a very large number of delays that are still going on, but the Long Island Railroad is operating, and I just want everybody out there to know it. If you're counting on the Long Island Railroad today, we got you. But I also just want to say that we have to start recognizing that this is an unacceptable situation. This is like the third time in a row in a matter of a couple weeks that we have knocked out Penn Station. We have had Penn Station knocked out by problems with Amtrak. And this is why we made a big deal of the fact that when they decided to close down for months at a time the tunnel, that we thought that was a dangerous idea. And because every time this happens, we're one tunnel short and we cannot run service to Penn. So, I really want to reinforce the fact that Amtrak has to do better, but equally important, they have to make good on their commitment that they're going to study whether they can do the work that they need to do in their own broken down tunnel in the middle of the night instead of knocking it out for an entire 9-month period, which is what they insist on doing. The governor was promised an independent report on whether they could perform that work at night and on weekends instead of having to take the tunnel out permanently. And that we have not seen that report, and they haven't even talked to us about it, which is a source of concern. So that is my message: is we're going to do everything we can to make sure that Long Island Railroad customers have, get the service that they count on. But we've had almost 100 complaints today. Normally we have like 5 or 10. I mean, this is an impact on Long Island Railroad customers, and I feel worse for Amtrak and New Jersey Transit, which the customers were totally out of business. But we all have to make clear to Amtrak that it's time to re-examine the model of taking out tunnels for months and months at a time when we are so dependent on them. This summer, there is a lot going on in New York. We got the U.S. Open golf tournament. We have the World Cup, needless to say. We have the Knicks going on. We have everyday commuters, over 200,000 of them trying to get in and out of the city of New York. So this cannot keep going on. And not for nothing, I remind everybody that Amtrak also ripped up the Metro North catenary when they took one of their new trains out there. And then when we said, you know what, before you bring your work trains back on to do it again, we'd like to be indemnified so you pay for the damage. And they refused and they sued us. By the way, they lost this week on that. So it's time for Amtrak. I don't know who's running Amtrak at this point. The CEO was pushed out. The president of Amtrak has resigned. They've announced that they're going to have their chief lawyer run the operation. When you see impacts like we are seeing in New York right now, you say, what is going on at Amtrak? We need some assurance that this isn't going to keep happening again and again and again. Setting the tracks on fire, have people walking through Penn Station it smells like, there's been a major fire here. The fire department worked overnight. People were injured. This is serious. They have to figure out how to not do this, and they have to figure out how to do their work as we do, nights and weekends, so they don't take tunnels out of service and crush us when they do this kind of stuff.
Janno,
you're
saying you don't know who's running Amtrak. One person who's a top executive is Andy Byford, used to work for you. Have you called him and had
listen, I was with Andy last night at a industry event, and we have a very good relationship. In fairness to Andy, he's not in charge of Amtrak's day-to-day operations. He's not in charge of making sure they don't rip up the train walls, they don't have these kinds of fires. He's in charge of a plan for Penn Station. That is not what we're talking about. We're talking about the basic operations of a railroad that, because we all share Penn, there are hundreds of thousands of people counting on. That's not Andy's responsibility. Well, only what I was told. What appears to have happened, again, this is the information I was given, is that 2 work trains seem to have collided in some way that resulted in impact to the electrical system and ignited a fire. More than that, I don't know, and it's really not my expertise that you should count on, but that's what I was told.
All right, Melissa, your question.
Can you just talk more about the frustrations with MTA having to,
partner with Amtrak on these intricate operations here?
Yeah, listen, Penn Station, Amtrak owns Penn Station, but we, between the subways and the Long Island Railroad, are well over 70% of the riders. So this is the situation in the region. New Jersey Transit has even worse than we do. We are all dependent on Amtrak's broken infrastructure. We're all dependent on Amtrak not to have major events like this, and yet they keep happening. So we're demanding accountability. Now, we've had accountability issues with Amtrak for a long time. It's not a secret. You guys report it like we have a feud with Amtrak. That's not the case. We're just saying you cannot keep destroying operations, and you also, talking about the Penn Access project in the Bronx, you can't wipe out these construction projects which are designed to improve the railroad for everybody when we are fixing Amtrak's broken infrastructure and they destroy the construction operation and kill projects like they did on the Penn Access project for Metro North. This is a chronic problem. This is an institution that is having some breakdowns regularly, but refuses accountability. We're saying that has to change.
All right, time for a couple more. Antoine, Janno, good morning.
Antoine.
Just tell us real quickly about the relationship. People always seem to think like, oh, you're always in tandem, in lockstep. This doesn't sound like that's the case.
Yeah, listen, we are not Amtrak. We are the Long Island Railroad and the subway system and the Metro North system, and we share infrastructure with Amtrak, but we are in the commuter rail business. We are 90+% of the passengers in and out of Manhattan every day, but we're all dependent on Amtrak's infrastructure. So they need to maintain it properly. They need to make sure it's available and it doesn't catch on fire and destroy service. They owe it to New Yorkers.
Greg, we know the Trump administration has been involved with the redesign of Penn Station. Do you think it should get up to that level, the Secretary of Transportation?
I sure would like to see, there is a Federal Railroad Administration that has safety oversight of Amtrak, and there's a very capable administrator there named David Fink. I'd like to see him take a look at what the problems Amtrak is having. We would like more leadership from the feds. If they, come back from the Great American Road Trip and look at the Great American Railway System.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.